one expected her to vanish from Hollywood at the height of her fame. She had the charisma, the talent, and a string of hit movies under her belt. But one day, Isla Fisher stepped away from the spotlight, quietly, without a press conference, without a farewell. And when people finally noticed, she was already gone. The reason? Not a scandal of her own making, but a silent decision to protect her children from one she feared was just waiting to erupt around her husband, the infamous Sacha Baron Cohen. While tabloids focused on the outlandish antics of Cohen's controversial characters, like Borat and Bruno, Fisher retreated further and further into obscurity. Her name disappeared from casting sheets, red carpet appearances grew rare, and the quirky, magnetic redhead who once captivated audiences in Wedding Crashers and Confessions of a Shopaholic faded from the public eye. But behind the scenes, her life was anything but quiet. She was navigating a storm of attention, controversy, and public curiosity surrounding her husband's often scandalous work. And in the middle of it all, she made a choice, one that many in Hollywood would never understand. She chose privacy over fame, motherhood over career, silence over applause. Yet her disappearance only raises more questions. What did she see behind the curtain of fame that made her turn away? Was she protecting her children from the spotlight or from the man she married? And how much did Isla Fisher sacrifice in the name of love, loyalty, and motherhood? This is not just a story about a woman who gave up fame. It's about the hidden price of being married to controversy. About what happens when a rising star walks off the stage, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Before she became the wife of Borat, Isla Fisher was already a household name in Australia. Born in Oman to Scottish parents, she moved to Perth as a child and began acting in commercials by the age of 9. But it was her breakout role as Shannon Reed in the beloved Australian soap Home and Away that made her a star across the country. With a radiant smile, sharp comedic timing, and undeniable charm, Isla wasn't just another pretty face. She had presence, the kind that made casting directors in Hollywood take notice. By the early 2000s, Isla Fisher had crossed over into American cinema, carving a niche for herself in raunchy comedies and romantic hits. Her turn as the unhinged yet lovable Gloria in Wedding Crashers stole scenes from heavyweights like Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. She wasn't just the girlfriend character, she was the comedic force, the unpredictable wild card. Then came leading roles in Confessions of a Shopaholic, Definitely Maybe, and a spot among an ensemble of illusionists in Now You See Me. Each role added another layer to her rising Hollywood profile. It was the kind of career many Australian actresses dreamed of, fun, flexible, and full of potential. Isla had done the impossible. She transitioned from Aussie soap star to global movie star. She was on magazine covers, late-night shows, and best-dressed lists. She was charming, bankable, and seemed poised for long-term success. But then, almost imperceptibly, her appearances dwindled. No new leading roles, no splashy premieres, no paparazzi photos with co-stars, only the occasional sighting, usually with her children or at private events by her husband's side. That husband, of course, was Sacha Baron Cohen, a man whose career thrived on shock, outrage, and relentless satire. His films, while wildly successful, were magnetized with controversy. From Borat's infamous scenes to Bruno's confrontational humor, Cohen had built a persona on pushing boundaries. But being married to a man who pokes the world's most sensitive nerves came at a price, and Isla Fisher quietly began to pay it. She had once described her husband as the bravest man in comedy, but bravery in entertainment often spills into danger in real life. Lawsuits, threats, backlash. It wasn't just headlines. It was tension at home, decisions to be made about raising children in the midst of chaos. Fisher, once playful and outspoken in interviews, grew more cautious. Her public appearances became selective, her interviews filtered and guarded, and when she did speak, it was often about protecting her family. The narrative of Isla Fisher's career began to shift. She wasn't just an actress anymore. She was a mother, a protector, a woman navigating the intense public glare aimed not at her, but at the man she loved. She once told a reporter, "Motherhood is my favorite topic now." But underneath that statement was a subtext. Her identity had changed, and perhaps not entirely by choice. This story isn't just about an actress fading from view. It's about how Hollywood, with all its glitter and power, can slowly become inhospitable to women who choose family over fame. It's about a woman who married controversy and then vanished to save her children from it. Isla Fisher's journey didn't begin on a red carpet. It began in Perth, Western Australia, where the daughter of Scottish immigrants discovered the thrill of performance at a young age. Her parents divorced when she was a child, and Isla often spoke of her early years as a mix of chaos and creativity. At 9, she was already acting in TV commercials, and by her teen years, she had landed a role in Paradise Beach, a stepping stone that would lead her to Home and Away, Australia's most iconic soap opera. It was there, as Shannon Reed, that Isla became a national sweetheart. But she wasn't content with just being a soap star. Determined to hone her craft, she left television behind and studied at l'École internationale de théâtre Jacques Lecoq in Paris, a prestigious school known for its physical theater and comedic discipline. This would prove essential later, as Isla built her name not through dramatic Oscar bait roles, but through unapologetically funny, offbeat, and memorable characters. Her Hollywood breakthrough came in 2005 with Wedding Crashers. In a cast dominated by alpha male comedic giants, Isla flipped expectations. As Gloria, the stage 5 clinger with a dangerously obsessive crush on Vince Vaughn's character, she was chaotic, unpredictable, and utterly hilarious. Audiences loved her. She wasn't afraid to be weird, loud, or sexually aggressive, traits usually reserved for male characters in raunchy comedies. She proved that funny women could dominate the screen and steal every scene. The industry took notice. Isla was flooded with offers, including the lead role in Confessions of a Shopaholic, 2009, a film that positioned her as a romantic comedy star in her own right. Though the film had mixed reviews, Fisher's performance was praised for elevating a genre often dismissed as lightweight. She became known for her impeccable timing, magnetic screen presence, and ability to balance vulnerability with outrageous humor. During this time, Isla was dating Sacha Baron Cohen, a relationship that surprised many. The reserved, petite redhead and the brash, boundary-pushing satirist made an unlikely pair. But what many didn't know was that their bond was intensely private, deeply committed, and deliberately out of the public eye. They dated for over 8 years before marrying in a secret ceremony in Paris in 2010 with only 6 guests in attendance. In the early years of their marriage, Isla kept working. She took on more supporting roles in films like Now You See Me and The Great Gatsby, and lent her voice to animated hits like Rango. But even then, a subtle shift was happening. Interviewers noted that Isla rarely spoke about upcoming projects, choosing instead to discuss motherhood, balance, and her desire for a normal life. The initial spark of her Hollywood career was dimming, not because of a scandal, failure, or fading talent, but because something more personal had taken precedence. As she and Sacha welcomed their children, Isla became increasingly protective. Paparazzi shots of the family became rarer. Her Instagram account remained strictly professional. No birthday photos, no family vacations, no glimpses of her private world. She didn't just pull back, she disappeared. What the public didn't see was the increasing weight she was carrying. Being married to Sacha Baron Cohen meant living with constant scrutiny. His characters weren't just controversial. They sparked lawsuits, death threats, diplomatic incidents. In one infamous case, Sacha was banned from the Oscars' red carpet in character, while Isla stood silently nearby, watching the circus from the sidelines. With each outrageous stunt, the risks grew, not just professionally, but personally. Some rumors whispered about tension behind the scenes, that Isla, while supportive, had grown weary of the relentless controversy that shadowed their life, that she feared for their children's safety, that she begged Sacha to tone things down. None of this was ever confirmed, but the fact that her career slowed, then stalled, while his continued to provoke and provoke again, raised questions that no one could quite answer. Still, Isla never publicly complained. In fact, she doubled down on her role as a wife and mother, even converting to Judaism for Sacha and focusing entirely on family. She turned down roles that would have kept her away too long. She moved to London, then returned to Australia, chasing normalcy in a world built on spectacle. Her choices weren't glamorous. They weren't loud, but they were deliberate. She wasn't pushed out of Hollywood. She walked away. And in doing so, she challenged everything the industry expects of its women. For years, the public adored Isla Fisher as a quirky, comedic breath of fresh air. But the deeper truth behind her sudden withdrawal from Hollywood wasn't in the roles she declined. It was in what she feared would happen if she stayed. The turning point wasn't a scandal of her own making. It was the fallout from her husband's ever riskier career. Sacha Baron Cohen's satire had always towed the line. But as his targets grew more powerful, politicians, cults, ideologies, the stakes intensified. In 2018, Cohen launched Who is America?, a show that deceived and exposed real-life figures in ways that bordered on the dangerous. Politicians were humiliated, activists were enraged, gun lobbyists, extremists, even a sitting vice president, all were caught in his crosshairs. And while Sacha played with fire on screen, Isla stood just behind the flames, quietly, unseen, holding her children's hands. Though she rarely gave interviews, one comment during this period betrayed her inner turmoil. "I keep my children out of the spotlight because I want them to have a normal childhood," she said. "They didn't choose this." But there was more to it than childhood innocence. Insiders whispered that Isla had grown increasingly anxious about their family's safety. The backlash Cohen received wasn't just angry tweets. It was threats, real and disturbing. Lawsuits piled up. One man, fooled into making racist comments on Who is America, threatened revenge. The show's own production team spoke of needing constant legal counsel and personal protection. For Isla, who had built her success on laughter and lightness, this darkness was not part of the dream. She never signed up to be collateral damage in someone else's provocation. And the deeper she waded into motherhood, the clearer it became. Hollywood was not a safe place to raise her children, not while married to a man the world either loved or loathed. Behind the scenes, she made sacrifices quietly. Roles were turned down, press was avoided, friends noticed her absence, but never questioned it. Even when Now You See Me Too went into production, Isla, who was a fan favorite in the first film, was replaced, reportedly due to scheduling. But many believed it was something else. That she simply didn't want to deal with the circus of press junkets, paparazzi, and publicity while trying to shield her kids. One former colleague described Isla as the happiest person on set and the first to leave the party. That duality defined her public disappearance. To outsiders, she seemed fulfilled. In private, she was managing a storm no one saw, raising children under the shadow of one of entertainment's most controversial figures, all while trying to preserve their anonymity. Her decision to step away wasn't dramatic, and that's what made it powerful. There was no scandal, no farewell tour, just a slow retreat into the background. Isla once said, "You can't be in two places at once, and I chose to be home." But the unspoken truth lingered between the lines. I chose to be safe. And yet, despite her silence, she occasionally let something slip, small emotional confessions that hinted at regret. In one rare interview, when asked about balancing career and motherhood, she laughed before answering, "It's a juggling act, and sometimes you drop the ball, or you put down the ball forever." It was the closest she came to admitting the cost. The media barely caught on. To them, she was still Mrs. Cohen, or that actress from Wedding Crashers. But for those who looked closer, Isla's story wasn't one of retreat, it was one of protection. Her choice to walk away was an act of rebellion against a system that demands women sacrifice everything for fame. Instead, she sacrificed fame itself. Even now, Isla remains fiercely private. No public scandals, no messy headlines, no memoirs to explain her vanishing. Just a few quiet words, once shared in a side interview. "I like my life. I just don't want to share it." Isla Fisher's story is not a tale of failure, nor is it one of defeat. It's a rare portrait of quiet defiance in an industry that rarely rewards it. Hollywood loves its rebels, but only when they rebel loudly, publicly, and on its terms. Isla did the opposite. She disappeared on her terms, not out of scandal or rejection, but out of protection, loyalty, and love. From the perspective of Aussie Uncovered, Isla Fisher represents a forgotten archetype, the woman who chose absence over applause. In a world where celebrities commodify every aspect of their lives, children, marriages, breakdowns, Fisher's decision to withhold herself from the public feels almost radical. It's easy to mistake her retreat for weakness, but perhaps it was the strongest thing she ever did. Her career was never in decline. Her talent didn't fade. If anything, she was on the brink of becoming Hollywood's next great comedic actress. But she walked away before that crown could be placed on her head. And what does that tell us? That fame, to her, was never the ultimate prize. That maybe, despite what the headlines imply, not everyone in Hollywood is willing to trade family for a film deal. It's tempting to view her marriage to Sacha Baron Cohen as the catalyst for her retreat. And in part, it was. His career created a whirlwind of controversy and attention that would be suffocating for any family. But Isla didn't just react. She chose. She wasn't swallowed by his shadow. She stepped into it deliberately, using it as a shield. Still, one can't help but wonder, what has Hollywood lost in losing her? Would we have seen more bold, offbeat, hilarious performances like Wedding Crashers or Rango? Would she have taken on dramatic roles, indie films, or television? Did she have more to give, and did we as a culture push her away by expecting her to be both star and wife, icon and mother? At Aussie Uncovered, we believe Isla Fisher's legacy is not just in the characters she played, but in the values she upheld. She never played the fame game by the rules. She stayed true to herself, and when the cost became too high, she walked away with grace. And so we ask, what do you think Isla Fisher sacrificed? Was it worth it? Can we admire someone for stepping back, just as much as we admire those who fight to stay visible? In a culture obsessed with spotlight, do we even know how to value silence anymore? Because sometimes the loudest statement is made by the one who chooses not to speak. There's something haunting about the way Isla Fisher disappeared, so slowly, so silently, that most of us didn't notice until she was already gone. One day she was the bright, fiery redhead lighting up comedies and carpets alike. The next, she was a memory in movie montages, a name that prompted, wait, whatever happened to her? But now, you know. You know about the quiet choices behind the curtain, about the roles she never took, the scripts she turned down, the premieres she skipped. Not because she couldn't, but because she wouldn't. You know what it means to be the woman beside a man like Sacha Baron Cohen, what it means to love someone the world both laughs at and threatens. And you understand now why she held her children tighter and Hollywood looser. There was a time when Isla Fisher's laugh filled cinemas around the world, when her smile was plastered across posters and casting directors fought to have her next. And perhaps, in another timeline, she could have been a household name for decades, commanding leads, awards, a legacy built in front of flashing cameras. But instead, her legacy is built in the quiet, in the space she carved for herself and her family, in the refusal to let the industry devour what mattered most. And maybe that's what makes her story linger. Because while some chase immortality through fame, others preserve it through love, through privacy, through choices no one ever sees. Isla Fisher may never return to the roles that once defined her. And that's okay. Her story isn't about what was lost. It's about what was protected, what was chosen. Some stories are never told, but now you know.